Well, we're getting very close to Brexit Day, and I guess many of us are hoping that there will be some sort of trade deal which will ease things. And I've also been asked by a few people recently, what do I think Brexit's going to mean for those of us working in comms and public relations, and how can we prepare our teams, and what do I think is going to happen? And I guess the short answer is I don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen. But I think there's a few sort of sensible things that we can put in place. And I guess the first thing is that whatever happens, the comms function has a really important role to play in keeping the business running smoothly. So if the business hits issues or bottlenecks or, unrest or criticism or whatever it is, then comms can play a really important role in dealing with that. So I guess we have to be prepared for a spike in activity. We need to make sure that we're tooled up. And this is just sensible at any time. We should always make sure that we're tooled up. We should always make sure that we're ready to react and respond quickly. But this is a really important time, and this is as good a time as any to make sure that everything's in place. So it's the executing all the basics. It's making sure that we have the passwords and the access and that the out-of-hours contacts and that the systems are all working properly. Keeping in mind that the last time we were preparing to exit from the European Union, was now more than a year ago, because we've had this transition period. So for more than a year, we kind of knew, well, okay, now nothing's going to happen urgently. And the big change, of course, has been COVID. The big change has been that we've maybe spent months out of the office. We've changed the way that we operate, right? So if a key chain of communication is that, well, I go and I talk to Kenny, well, the way that I talk to Kenny now might have completely changed compared to how it was, a couple of years ago. Do I even know his phone number? Now maybe I've just been hitting a button on a Zoom call and he's just there. So there's certain things that we might have relied upon previously, which this year, not because of Brexit, but that they've changed. So it's making sure that we can contact everybody, that we have methods of getting information out there. Again, some of us, in terms of the way that we engage with our audiences, if it's a college, have we closed a campus, have we closed the premises, we've no longer got that same physical space. That sign that we used to use, or that notice board where we put stuff on, well, nobody's there anymore because we changed it. So it's going back and really making sure that the channels are working and that internally all these communication channels are working. I have to say, I think that you might remember, if you've worked in the game long enough, the Millennium Bug, and I had a friend that had been given like a portable stove from her employer because they genuinely thought that, at midnight on the 31st into the 1st of January, it literally will fall off a cliff. I don't see that happening with Brexit. And I think at first it'll be like, oh, okay, right, we're all still the same. Europe's just the same distance away. That's fine. But it will be the weeks and months after that. It will be, in the middle of March. Let's assuming, worst case, right? There's no deal, or there's not a great deal. It will be the middle of March. You'll go to place the order for ink cartridges, and it will take longer, right? So make sure that you don't run out of ink cartridges. Don't leave it till you run out and then expect a quick solution. Plan for it taking longer than that. It will be when your hosting runs out for your website. Renewing that might be different, or it might cost more, or you might have to re-register and set it up again. I think there'll be things like that previously we've never considered, and the first time that we encounter it, it might be more complicated previously. The big one, of course, is if you physically have to go to the European Union, if you're used to travel. Even when the COVID restrictions ease and we're legally allowed to, you might be standing in a queue, there might be permits, there might be visas. If you're a musician and you're taking musical instruments, there might be some additional things to contend with. So prepare for interruption to the supply chain. Prepare for you not being able to move around quite as freely as previously. And it is just good practice in terms of business resilience and crisis management. And it starts with the basics and making sure that internally you're all absolutely, on top of it. So yeah, I think that's it, and pay close attention and recognize that people's appetite for information will spike. So even if it is absolute critically business as usual for you, nobody's affected, everything's hunky-dory, the challenge that you're going to have is that your audience doesn't know that. Your audience doesn't take that for granted. In the same way that, like if you take your kids to dancing lessons in the church hall on a Saturday morning, if you find out today that the church hall had been flooded and the roof was blown off and it was a complete disaster, if they then move heaven and earth and work really hard over the next couple of days to make sure that everything's back to normal and the dance class can still run on Saturday morning, you don't know that, right? All you heard was, there's some absolute mess, as a catastrophe. So you're turning up and you're thinking, is this still happening? Where do I go? Is this just business as usual? Are they going to be safe? That's the situation that some of your customers might be in. They know that Brexit's happening. They know that maybe we've left without a trade deal, or maybe there's a deal and maybe it means this, maybe it means that. So they're probably going to have more questions. They're going to need more reassurance. And that means there's an increased strain on your comms function. There's more people wanting more information. At the same time, your organisation might have more that it wants to say, and you might face some interruptions or some delay in terms of getting some of that out. Things might be a wee bit more complicated, so make sure that the wheels are greased, right, and that everything's moving well. This would be a horrible time to have a bottleneck in your own chain of command, or to forget the password, or, oh God, Kenny's on secondment and he's got that information and I can't log in. You need to make sure that you can log in to all these channels and all these websites and respond quickly. I can't tell you what you might have to do, but I'll guarantee that when you have to do it, you'll have to do it quickly. So get prepared for that.